Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order regular city council meeting for Monday, October 14th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members who have given their lives for our country. If everyone would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Smith, if you'd take roll call, please.
Mayor Jacobs?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dold?
Present.
Councilmember Karafotis?
Here.
Councilmember Squires?
Show Councilmember Squires absent and excused.
Councilmember Earl? Here. Councilmember Witt? Here. Councilmember Lynch? You have a quorum of 6.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Monday, October 14th, 2024 council meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further discussion from table. From public. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Now we have no recognitions, and I don't see any state or county officials. No presentations, community events. I'd like to call up Garden City Business Alliance President Jackie Peridor.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Can I just take a moment to appreciate Garden City and its residents and the businesses who have collected, delivered, and donated to the hurricanes. That's just who we are, and I love it. So GCBA is 10 years old this year. So we're going to have an anniversary celebration over at Radcliffe Wednesday, the 16th from 6 to 8. We're going to have giveaways, we're going to have vendors, we're going to have cake. So please come on out, have a piece of cake, enjoy meeting people and talking to our vendors and just having a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 9, we have, I do have a communication, and it involves the street project on Craig and Moeller Street. They started last week, and we got a lot of questions and comments about how there's a drop-off on the street and into the ditches and the driveways. The project is just 3 days old, 4 days old, so it's not done by any means. I've been told the contractor will be here this week again. They will be tapering off the gravel parking areas, dirt and seeding, low-lying areas, and wedging all the asphalt driveways on both streets. So the project is far from done. people started complaining, and again, once one person starts it on social media, it seems to pick up steam. But they are out there, they will be out this week, weather permitting, to make it a final product. So hold off all complaints until it's completely done, please. The streets themselves are looking really good, so there's just some restoration work and some easement work that still needs to be completed. So, item 10 is a public hearing we have on the 2024 Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Mr. Miller, our Community Development Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Tonight's public hearing is required by the city charter for the sale of property. The ordinance that's before you is for the sale of property on Deering Street that we acquired through the Wayne County tax foreclosure right of first refusal. After the property, if it's approved for sale, will be sold, then in turn, it's to be sold to HP Snap, which is our designated vendor for the renovation for the property to be returned to the tax rolls. We've worked with HP Snap for a number of years. They do a good job, and they will completely renovate the house, bring it to code, and get it back on the tax rolls for us. The house at 622 Deering, it was the only property that we did acquire through the tax foreclosure process through the right of first refusal. As you know, we acquired the property through right of first refusal, but the city cannot be a party to the renovation or any of the profits made on the property. We can sell the property for what we acquire it for, and then we do have an administrative fee and closing costs that are about $1,000 that the city will acquire during that process. So.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will open up the public hearing. If anybody has a comment? Call once again. Anybody having a comment on this, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program? Mr. Jones.
I just have a question. The house is unoccupied at this time?
I believe so. Mr. Miller?
Actually, the house is occupied. We did work out a contractual agreement with the property owners that they actually wanted out. They were unable to maintain the property. They were behind in taxes. A lot of things were going on in their life that they just needed to get an exit strategy. So we did work with the property owners, and they are going to vacate, and once the closing happens, they're going to move on. So.
Okay, thank you.
But usually we do not acquire properties with families in them because we don't want to be a party to this. They approached us, so, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further comment? Any further public comment on the stabilization program? Okay, no further comments. I will close the public hearing. Item 11 is the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A1 through 3 as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Comments from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. On to the action items. Item 1 is the 2024 Neighborhood Stabilization Program that we just had a public comment on. Councilmember Earl.
I move to approve the ordinance to convey the property obtained as a part of the 2024 Neighborhood Stabilization Program, right of first refusal, 622 Deering, to HP Snap LLC of Redford, Michigan.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Okay, is there further comment from the table?
Mayor,
Councilmember Dole.
just have a couple of quick questions. I was wondering if maybe Mr. Miller could explain to us how HP Snap was originally chosen, and is this ever opened up to other entities to purchase the homes?
They were originally chosen through a RFP process, and it was an RFQ process, and we entered into a contract with them, and it had a renewal period. I don't remember when it ends. I guess I should look that up. But it will go out again. It'll be an RFQ, and we will look at kind of their ability to perform and other community. We did have other people at the time, and we felt that HP Snap was going to give us the best product.
Okay, so we have an actual contract
We have a
with them.
contract with them, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The other question, is there a time frame on the company to renovate the property and put it out for sale?
We don't really give them a time frame, but they, as soon as they get it, they flip them as quick as possible. The last house that we had on Leona took a long time, but there were a lot of problems with the house, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thanks.
Further?
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
I'm just going to say this because I know people always ask when this comes up. It is obviously going to be sold as a permanent resident and not as a rental, correct?
Correct. We do that for the first round. Unfortunately, we can't put a deed restriction to stop it from further sale. But
After the first time, you mean?
after the first time.
Right.
But, they are renovated and priced so that it usually isn't a landlord purchasing it.
Yeah, the last
all
one-
ours have been, yeah,
The last one they did was beautiful.
yes.
Thank you. Further comments from table? From the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, item 2 is the firefighter turnout gear purchase. Fire Chief Randy Keene.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have before you tonight is a purchase of 20 sets of turnout gear. This was previously brought to you as a grant. This is 100% funded by the state. It's for an additional set of turnout gear. So when we have an incident, we can come back, take our gear off, clean it properly, and utilize this gear as a second set so we can rid ourselves of all those carcinogens and toxic gases. So, like I said, this was brought to you, I believe, in August for a resolution to accept this grant. It's a great opportunity to get a second set of gear at no cost to the city. We did bring in 3 different sets of gear, had 6 members of the 20 kind of profile it. They did their own evaluation of it, tallied it up, and then that's how we chose the vendor that you have here today, is picked upon for the protection that they selected that they felt was best for us.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lynch.
I move to allow the purchase of 20 sets of firefighter turnout gear for a cost of up to $65,894 for McQueen Emergency Equipment.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Dole. Further comments from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Chief. Okay, item 3 is a change order for Radcliffe roofing contract. Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Erica Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, I'm presenting 3 action items on Radcliffe, so I just want to spend a couple minutes to provide a little bit of an update to inform as I get to these items. So to date, we have requested over $2 million of reimbursement from Wayne County, which have been approved. We have not gotten the actual deposit yet. Things got held up in the county cyber attack that they had a few weeks ago. So we are waiting to hear when that money will come through. We know that their IT and finance teams are working on all of that. So you also may recall that we have a deadline coming up here in October for us to expend 70% of the ARPA grant, which is at 2.8 mark. We are on pace to meet that. We're expecting a big invoice to come from our roofing contractors here as we get near the end of the month. And I'm currently working on that October collection of reimbursements, so we are on pace to get that 70% target. I have been speaking a little bit with our city manager about coming back and doing an update for you all, really to follow up on the July presentation that I did. There's You know, that presentation was before we had the roofing numbers, it was before we had done any reimbursements. And so after those things have occurred, there's been a little bit of change in our scope and how that's defined through the county, and really is dictating the reimbursement process. So I think coming back in November after the roof is wrapped up, and we're looking at the remaining 1.1 million to spend in 1 year. I'd like to do that because it's hard to kind of give these updates in these moments of agenda items, but there's a lot of numbers, and there's different ways we're tracking, whether it's for the grant, whether it's for our own internal accounting, and also for me moving forward. So I really want to come back and share with you what we've spent, where it's come from, what's left, and really our 7 remaining project areas at Radcliffe. So for tonight, I just want to highlight that we are working to complete the key Radcliffe projects, and there's really 7 of them. And all of those fall under, or those fall in the ARPA budget. So we have a contingency budget within the ARPA budget now. We didn't have that at the time, back in July. So I think that was important just to cover, because these items I'm going to talk about are going to refer to a contingency. At this time, we have no general fund contingency budgeted. We are planning to spend the $4 million from ARPA and the 2.1 from HUD to finish out what we're, and 200,000 from CDBG. That's our funding source moving forward. That's what we're looking to use to complete the remaining projects. So that's a little background. The first item tonight is a change order to the roofing contract. So we were informed of 7 roof drains that needed to be corrected. These were not included in the original contract, and so what we are given is, in the bid, there's a per unit pricing for various items, and so the cost of that for the 7 drains is $10,500. So I'm looking for you to approve that. I'm also looking for an approval of a contingency budget within that contract. While we had a contingency budget in our budget with ARPA, when I brought the contract forward, I didn't have that in there, and I really should have, because it's pretty normal to have a contingency budget for a capital project of this scope. So I'm coming back now because I think we're going to have a few more drains as they complete the roof, and we don't want to hold up the completion. So a contingency, again, will allow us to approve that work, but if it's not needed or not used, we don't pay anything for it. Do you have any questions on that item?
Anybody?
Answered my question, if we had the contingency before or not, so.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, for now, a motion is in order.
I have some questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I thought you were going to say something else. So the drains, they've already been fixed, right?
Yes.
Okay. It was just a little hard when you're reading if it was done. So I guess my next question is, the contingency is $50,000. Let's just say it was in there at the beginning. We would just take the 10,000 out of there? So do we need to make it 50,000? Can it just be the 40 if we're already doing the 10? I mean, you said it's 5% of the thing. That's pretty normal for us to do, is 5 to 10%. It's $50,000. Can't we just take the 10,000 out of that?
My only thought would be, if it's 50 and we don't use it, we don't spend it. But the idea being, we want to get as much done as we can by the end of the month, and we don't want any, I don't want to nickel and dime anything that might hold up a larger expenditure. If it was a drain or something, or it may not be a drain, it could be something else within the contingency that needs to be used. So if we
Instead of
outlay the
coming back
50,
again?
yeah, just because my fear would be that, yep, it was 5,000 extra we needed, and shoot, well, that hurt us on spending an extra 100,000 that we needed, that would help us get to that number. So
I'm good with that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Councilmember Witt.
Were, in the initial inspection, were the drains just missed by the inspector?
The drains are not visible, so they're
So is that
only
ripped
seen
up?
after they started tearing up. So that's why
Okay.
we don't know how many are left.
Okay, that's all I wanted to, thank you.
Yeah.
Is the tear-off complete?
They're doing it in sections. So they're tearing off, completing, and moving around, and working around some of the renters we have and some of the preferred days, so.
Okay, thanks.
Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a change order to the roofing contract with MTD Construction for $10,500, along with enacting a $50,000 contingency budget for unanticipated remaining roof replacement costs at Radcliffe.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Further questions from the table? From the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next one is Wayne County CDBG grant agreement. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Yes, the second item is a request for council to execute an agreement with Wayne County CDBG for $200,000 to be used for renovation of the bathrooms at Radcliffe. This may sound familiar, this funding source, it was originally identified back in 2022. At that time, this was marked for senior fitness room, the computer lab, and senior activities. So unfortunately, an agreement was not fully executed, and when things were purchased, they are no longer eligible to be reimbursed. We've been working with the county both to understand what happened, because there were things in place that showed, there were conversations and things being discussed. Of course, those people are no longer in both of those positions, so it took a little bit of digging to figure out, well, what happened? And I think, they came back and said the best thing is they have the $200,000, they want us to have it. We just needed to identify a qualifying project, apply for it, and then get it approved before we would start working on it to come back for money. So CDBG is a federal grant source. It's very technical. It also requires the environmental review, which we're really fortunate that we have done now. So this will require some design and engineering, and to go to bid for this, just because of the technicality and the way that the HUD grant works, or not the HUD, the CDBG. We are kind of in a deadline with this one. We really need to expend it by July of 2025. So tonight is the contract that really formalizes what the grant entails. So any questions on?
Any questions?
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
you said it requires engineering and design work. Is that something different? I mean, we're going to put it out to bid, obviously. So any reputable construction companies qualified to do ADA bathrooms?
Yeah, so typically you have design work done so that all the contractors are bidding on the same thing and you have a plan. We don't have a project manager for our full, multi-million-dollar project. It's like me, and we have some great contractors and staff, but to do these bathrooms and to make sure that we're ADA compliant, we do need a little technical support. And so because this is so strict, some of the what I read through in the CDBG, agreements, they want us to do a proper bidding where we have those specifications outlined, what's going to look like. So we need help with that.
So it's bid specs that we're going to,
Yeah.
and then go to bid.
And then we go to bid. And we're hoping, we don't know how far the $200,000 will get us. We're hoping to at least upgrade 2 sets of bathrooms. If we can do a third one, but we don't know yet till we get those numbers back.
And I know you said that next month you'll come with some more numbers for all of us. I know when we had the proposed budget back in July, the ADA restrooms, the anticipated cost was $300,000, and that was going to be paid for through the ARPA grant. So that's off of that, and this will take care of it.
Yeah, so, and again, that July sort of forecasting, we did have $300,000, which I would have liked. When we did our first reimbursement, we actually pulled out more money than what I thought we were doing at the time. So we thought we had about 1.1 in reimbursement. We really went for 1.3. So then we had that much less to work with. So then we had to adjust some of the numbers. And so it went down a little bit. And I think what this is allowing, this grant is coming in and making sure that we can address these bathrooms. We still have, so then the money that was in the ARPA budget becomes contingency money, that $200,000. So if we need an extra $50,000 for whether it's some of the engineering plus the finishing touches, we can combine them.
Okay.
Further questions?
Do we have any idea what the costs are going to be for the design and the specs?
Honestly, no, I do not know. I have reached out to a few contractors, or like the schools are a great resource. They got me in touch with who did their bathrooms. I'm still trying to get their proposal quote back, so I'm waiting on that.
Okay, and
that would be for how
that's
much,
coming out
like
of
the
the
design.
ARPA grant?
I'm sorry?
That comes out of the ARPA grant? And this 200,000 is reserved for construction?
Yes. That
Okay.
was one of the parameters, is that for whatever reason, the CDBG, I mean, it's very technical, the grant needs to check certain boxes, and they said they will only cover construction, that grant. So we have $200,000 in construction. Anything outside of that will come out of the ARPA, either contingency or the old budgeted amount for the bathrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Okay, motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Dole.
make to motion to approve the Wayne County CDBG grant agreement for $200,000 to be used toward ADA restroom upgrades at Radcliffe Center.
Support.
Or from Councilmember Witt. Okay, further discussion from the table. From the public. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 5, while you're still here, Ms. Smith, Radcliffe Center HVAC, Mechanical and Electrical Engineering Services.
Okay, so this last item is related to the last item because the cushion in our contingency has allowed us to move ahead with the HVAC spec work, essentially. This is the work we need to get the design specs and the engineering so we can go out to bid for the HVAC work. So this is the big remaining project that early estimates are saying around $2 million based on what we need to replace. And the designated funding source is HUD. So the HUD application is yet to be executed. They are very backed up. Their grant coordinator is very backed up. So it also can be very helpful to have specs in hand and an initial estimate that's based in some of those some of that information, so that when I'm putting together the actual application, that we're going to be more accurate to what the costs are. So we have $2.1 million in HUD. We've spent a tiny bit through the environmental review process. Our hope is to get as much of the HVAC system and boiler replaced as we can. If it goes over that, we're really just going to have to make decisions of what can we, what's most important, because that's really the budget we have to work with. So we just want a really good competitive bid on this item. And we hope if it comes in under, then we have a lot of room to use it in other projects. And this grant, we have about 9 years left to spend it. But the HVAC is another high priority item that has just had a series of ongoing issues, whether it's leaking units or malfunctioning units and broken parts. So that's kind of the background on the HVAC. We did reach out to 5 different companies to try to get proposals. There was a pretty big variation in them, and it was a bit like comparing apples and oranges. So we got 3 proposals back. The Di Clemente Siegel design is the one that is included in your packet that we are proposing to move ahead with. It's for $46,400. That does include all of the mechanical and engineering specs, a bid package, and some monitoring throughout the process. Another similar quote came highly recommended, but that quote came in at $125,000, and it really didn't look like it offered a whole lot more. Maybe they were just, they did a lot more background with their subcontractors. It took them a while to get us the quote. We had another really great quote that was for $10,000, but that quote did not include any drawings, and it did not include a bid package, and there was no oversight. And probably more critical was that that quote required us to have our contractor in place to assist them in identifying the units. And so we couldn't use that one because we can't award a contractor before we've done the process. So that was the quote, or the proposal in your package is this De Clemente Siegel.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I know in the past, normally when we get requests like from DPS, we're actually supplied with those bid sheets showing us what each company sent you.
Oh.
So in the future, if maybe we could get those, it's really helpful for us to be able to see it.
Absolutely. I know what you're talking about, and no one's ever told me.
That's why I'm saying it now.
But now that you say that, absolutely, and I can retroactively put that together. So
It would just be helpful, so
yeah, no,
thank you.
absolutely, and I will do that moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Councilmember Karafotis.
So this $46,000 is for them to do the specs to get the bids?
Yes.
Okay, is it generally that high? I know the last couple times we've asked for specs, like for the roof and stuff, it was right around $10,000 or $12,000. What's additional that makes it so high?
So the roof was very similar, but it was broken up into phases. So the first phase was, I think, 18, and then they were just pieced out. This one is everything all together. So from my understanding, this is a fairly average price for the type of project at this level. So if this is a $2 million project, this is a fairly normal percentage of what you would pay to get that work done.
And then when you said that the companies, their bids varied from the different work, did we ask them all to bid for the same services?
Right.
All three of them?
These are proposals. They're not actual bids, but we're asking them for what is the cost to get the specifications to go to bid. And so one of the companies just didn't do that, but they gave us the price for what they could do. And then the other two were the similar as far as engineering, mechanical, bid, and oversight.
I guess the reason I'm asking that is because when we were doing the garbage stuff, and they gave a proposal, and they said, nope, you can't include that because all of you didn't include that. So how do these other companies, if it's from 100,000 to 46,000 to 10,000, they obviously all didn't give the same proposal. So how do we do that?
Well, this is a professional services contract. Garbage is a little different. And with a professional service contract, basically we were asking for what can you do for this project for us? And of course, it started with the bid specs and getting it ready for that. But at the same time, this includes monitoring and oversight. And as we discussed, we're trying to get more in line with finding a company that will see us through the job.
Well, I understand what it's for. My question is, were all three companies made aware that we need a proposal to do these 10 things? Because it sounds like the one company for only $10,000 didn't propose just to do a little bit, and the company that proposed $125,000 proposed a lot more. So is it not equal that they all have to say, we're given a proposal on these things, and that's it?
And I'll rely on Erica to clarify, but I believe her statement was that $10,000 one said, we can do $10,000 now, then we'll tell you later once we move on to the next step what the price is.
Okay.
Sort of, we don't know what that'll be until we do this part, and then we would be agreeing to go forward with them and then curious as to what the next prices will be.
Okay, so
this gives us an idea of what our costs are set right now.
That's because it's a proposal, but when it's a bid, they all have to bid the exact same.
Yeah, when we're doing a sealed bid, we're obligated to provide that bid, and it's what we asked for, and we're only allowed to discuss that. But this is a slightly different contract, and just everybody came in a little bit differently.
It's a lot.
This one seems to give us what we're looking for at the best price.
Okay.
What we're looking
And
for.
I will add some insight. When I first got one of the bids, the one that ended up being very expensive, their first initial phase one was $10,000. I thought, oh, this is great. And we almost moved ahead with that, but we were trying to, well, that's not giving us the full story. So I reached back out to them, and they put a little more work into all these other costs, and it came back just so much bigger. So it is hard to, in a proposal, it's hard to stipulate, because if you think about the bid, we're paying people to help us develop the specs. So in this case, a proposal is, here's what we need, and they're providing it to us, and then, we don't have the same process as a bid, like when you're comparing them. on all of
Okay.
that.
I guess my other question is, in the bid process, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, was the company that has done all the work on the roof one of the proposals? Is it Tech Mechanical or?
No, so they will probably be a company bidding for it.
Okay, but they don't do the planning purposes and everything?
No, they do not have that
Okay,
capacity.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, motion is in order. Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve D. Clemente Siegel Design, Inc. proposal to proceed with mechanical and electrical engineering services for HVAC replacement at Radcliffe Community Center for the amount of $46,000.
Support.
Of 400, 46,400, sorry.
Or from Councilmember Earl. Further discussion from the table. From the public. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, item 6 is Garden City Goodfellows on street sales.
You just want the motion?
Motion?
Okay. I didn't know if you had somebody come
No
in.
no one,
Okay.
I don't know if anybody was going to speak on it.
Okay. I move to approve the Garden City Goodfellows request to conduct on-street 2024 Goodfellow newspaper fundraiser on Friday, November 29th, Saturday, November 30th, and Sunday, December 1st, between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. at the intersections of Ford and Middlebelt, Ford and Merriman, Middlebelt and Warren, and Ford and Vinoy, subject to the receipt of hold harmless agreements from participants in accordance with the city's policy of on-street sales.
Support.
Or from Councilmember Witt. Discussion from the table.
Mayor,
Councilmember Dolt.
not that there's any way I benefit from this, but I should offer to recuse myself from the vote since I am on the Goodfellow Committee.
Council, does it matter to you if she votes or not?
No, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
Okay, then you don't have to recuse yourself.
Thank you.
Further discussion from the table? From the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, item 12, excuse me, item 12 is other business. Item A is sidewalk improvement grant application. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last meeting, it was discussed, I wanted to have a conversation about the status of the sidewalk grant and then how it would impact our current sidewalk ordinance requiring homes who are doing sales or getting rental certifications to install those sidewalks themselves. It's good, it's worth consideration because we're looking at 2.5 million to do some of that work, some of that gap filling as much as we possibly can, including what the city needs first, but then moving on to that. So, you know, I asked to be able to provide you some information. So in the first part of the packet essentially is here's where we are. Here's where we are on the steps of the grant. Here's some things to consider. The first being, just to let you know where the grant is, we are in step 3. If you go to that last page, appropriation bill signed, the grant application was sent to us from the legislative office, and our fantastic community development director has already filled out the application. It wasn't even due till December 13th, so not that we're eager to get that in, but we already did. And but here's where that comes in a little bit of the drag. It has to be by the 13th, and then 45 days later, they have to make a decision. So somewhere in that time, we'll probably hear back from the state. And then a grant will be drafted, a grant agreement from both parties will be drafted. We'll have to examine it. Council will have to vote on it, go back to the state, get the state's approval. Once the grant agreement is in place, money is distributed, we'll get 50% up front to start doing the work. But that will take some time. Nothing, especially the state government moves fast, but we're so glad that it's happening. Now, with all that money coming in, what do we do right now? Well, we're starting to enter construction season, the end of construction season. The weather's going, and I've been pondering this. My initial thought was, you know, we could do a suspension of the ordinance or a moratorium. But as I looked at it, a number of factors came to mind. First, there is some concern over the legality of moratoriums at certain points. What's the appropriate time frame and what's not? And then I looked even farther. Once $2.5 million is spent on sidewalk improvements in Garden City, what's the necessity of that current ordinance, and do we want it in its current form? Do we want to change it? I think a lot within the city will change if we can utilize that $2.5 million effectively to make our needs and then get the rest. But we don't know exactly what that money will cover entirely, and what will the city look like at that point. And I think the purpose of the ordinance was to make Garden City more walkable. The purpose was to fill those gaps. And if those are things we can meet, or at least come close to meet, what will we want a sidewalk ordinance to look like after that? And given that we're entering the winter and we're just going to start giving temporary COOs to do the work, maybe it's a time to consider amending that ordinance in a manner that we can revisit after the end of the grant. So whether that's a repeal or removal of certain parts of the ordinance or changing some language, I think it's an appropriate time to consider that. So while my initial recommendation coming into writing this packet was a suspension of moratorium, the more I thought about it over the weekend and had some conversations with the city attorney during the last little bit, I think it's appropriate just to go ahead and consider just amending that ordinance at the next, at a public hearing on a date of your guys' choosing, and really consider adjusting that. And then we wait and see. We get our funds, we get to a certain point where we have an expectation for the work, and then we come back and revisit. Is this ordinance back? Do we want to have it back the way it was? Or do we want to adjust it for what Garden City looks like at that point? So hopefully the information I provided is sufficient. Hopefully my explanation on my sort of opinion as of right now is clear, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Anyone have a question?
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
I think it would be great to do that. You know, I think once we found out about that we were going to get this grant, we were all kind of thinking, hopefully we can get rid of that ordinance. To do a public hearing, it has to be 10 days, so we couldn't get it out in time probably for the next meeting, right? And my only concern is with a new group of individuals coming in, I don't want to make major changes right before half the council leaves. So I think it should be done, but I think it should be done, and I got the email. I'm still in a quandary about that, but I get the state made different rules. I don't agree with them. But I think we should try to set something up as quickly as we can, but we should get the people who are going to be here the longest the ability to speak on it.
And just in reference to when a public hearing could be called, I spoke with the clerk today, and I wanted to know what's the soonest we could do it, and what other dates would we consider? We discussed, what about the next council meeting? And I'll let the clerk answer that, it falls into line to when we can get it published. The ordinance, our charter says 7 days. However, there's a logistics difficulty, and I'll let the clerk explain.
Yeah, so the difficulty that we run into with the public hearings is the charter says 7 days, but there's a lead time to get it published in the paper. So council is the engine that drives the directives on what we put together. So I can't send anything off to the paper until we get the call for a public hearing, and then we need to put together, what we want to amend, like are we doing a complete repeal? So once action is taken, it's normally at least 10 days before I can get it published in the paper. So there's really two days that I would suggest to council, depending on when you'd like to hold the public hearing, where the meetings would work, being November 18th, which would be the first meeting in November that we have scheduled, which would be the last meeting with the council in its current form that we have. The second meeting in November is the swearing-in ceremony. So if we wanted to wait until the next council was seated, it would be the December 9th meeting. So the two options that I would propose are either November 18th or December 9th.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is it possible for us to put a moratorium on it until that date when the new council is seated?
This is part of my trouble with moratoriums. In order to place a moratorium or suspension, you need to follow the same procedure you did in passing the ordinance, which would require a public hearing. Okay. However, that said, as I think about it, we're entering a season where I wonder, and this would be a question for building department, but this is on the administrative side, so it would fall under my purview, to say, can we do a temporary C of O for those homes that haven't, instead of having that requirement that they place a bond or anything like that, just in the short term, because we know this is occurring. That'll be something I'll examine immediately after. I don't want to have to, as I was thinking about this, there's going to be somebody who has done this that then the grant will end up covering someone else's, and they'll be the last person that did. And it will be my goal, as soon as I possibly can, if I can do it administratively, to stop that upon some reflection and a conversation with the city attorney. But we can't do a suspension without a public hearing, which requires that process. But I would say whatever I can do on the administrative end is what I'll try and do based on council's direction tonight.
I have a, Mayor?
Go ahead,
So
Councilman.
basically, in layman's terms, you're saying that if we say, okay, we're going to do a public hearing, the public hearing is the 25th of November, and the new council could vote yes to repeal it. But in between time, you as administrator of the city is going to say, we're not going to require people to put these sidewalks in, we're going to wait until this time.
My thought was to see if we can offer a temporary COO, kind of like we do when construction season, ends. If that's any type of discretion we're given, then if I can apply the same type of discretion, I'm going to try.
I'm saying if someone's supposed to have a sidewalk put in for $20,000 on Thursday, and they're watching this meeting, they're going to be calling you tomorrow saying, am I included in the hold?
I'll anxiously await that call, and I will do my best.
Okay.
So can we?
Any other questions? Okay, would someone like to make a motion with a date?
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
I make a motion to call for a public hearing on December 9th to consider amendments to Garden City Ordinance 94.35.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Okay, further discussion from the table. From the public. This is just about the public hearing. Okay, so we don't need that one. Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 for December 9th, public hearing. Okay, item 13 is public comment. I have Lisa Poma for a few subjects. Lisa Poma.
Okay, hello, everybody. This pertains to Goodfellows. When my sister Lynn and I were talking the other day, we remember when we were kids, my father passed away in '64, my mom didn't have the means, and a few days before Christmas, there was a knock on the door, and lo and behold, there were police officers with gift boxes from the Goodfellows. So for the next several years, they took care of us. So we want to pay it forward. So I have 2 envelopes of money for your organization, and I want to thank you for all you do for the Goodfellows. My second thing is, do I address you Mr. City Manager, Mr. Gibbons, Tim? What do I call you, first of all?
Anything you'd like, just as long as it's not an insult.
I called you Timmy.
I'll accept it.
I was here the day you applied for this position, and one of the things you said was you were going to make sure that you got in contact with our library, who has been ignored for a long time. And I'll be damned if you didn't stick to your word. I understand you went to the meeting, and people came out of that feeling optimistic. So Tim, that's for you.
Thank you very much.
I was so impressed, and I'm so happy that you're willing to make a library important again. They do great things. They
Absolutely.
do. My third thing is, I don't know who to address. With the elections, they do all these fact check questions. I have one. Is there any truth to the rumor that Garden City Hospital is suing our city for $49 million? And if they are, why and what are we going to do about it?
Thank you.
Should I stand here? Are you going to answer or go back? Okay.
Look into it, get back to you.
We'll,
Come back up?
I would imagine if we have an answer and can answer it tonight, our city manager will do it under his comments. Any further comments?
Just got a point of information here. Sitting here in the last couple of years, all I hear is the council's divided. It's divided, it's divided. I look at the leader for this issue. It comes from respect. I'm going by, you should be recognized as your title, Mayor Pro Temp. You understand what I mean, Councilmember Jacobs?
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments?
Okay. Well, I had a piece of paper. I didn't know if we were doing the piece of paper or not. All right, Jackie Peridor again on Belton Street. So I have, a couple of months ago, I think I brought up sidewalks on the public property, and some of the public property is not necessarily Garden City's. And I didn't know if anybody looked into, like on Warren, on Cherry Hill, is that city property? Is that county property? Because if we're going to make it walkable, the main streets need to be part of that path. And Tim, on the temporary C of O, my only concern as a Realtor would be my buyer coming in now doesn't know if I really have to put in a sidewalk or I don't at the date of purchase. So that would be a little dicey. If I'm going to buy a house and I have to spend 20 grand on a sidewalk, or maybe I won't, I'd rather have that answer before I sign the papers. That's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Mr. Jones.
I'd like to make sure that the community is aware of 4 events that are coming up relative to seniors. I'm the chairman of the Commission on Aging. We have Penny Bingo on the 1st and 4th Wednesday of each month. Costs you 25 cents for a bingo card, but brings lots of pennies. They're used as bingo markers. Tech Talk with Julie. If you need help with your cell phone, laptop, tablet, email, or any other tech issue, you can call Julie. But you do need to make an appointment with Danielle at 734-793-1870. She meets with people every Thursday. The next one will be October 17th from 12 to 4. The third item is we have this is kind of in advance, but we do have a free hearing center at the Radcliffe Center for seniors. You call 734-793-1870 to register. And that's going to be on Monday, November 18th from 10 to 2. And the last one, again, this is a future event, but we do have our annual Christmas party, which will have music, a catered holiday lunch, giveaways, a 50-50 raffle, and friendship. It's only costs $20. It's going to be on Friday, December 13th from 12 o'clock to 2.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments?
Good evening. Corey Butler. I'm here from Garden City Firefighters, Local 1911. Just wanted to update everybody on our pumpkin sales. We're a couple weeks in now. We wanted to first say thank you to everybody who's come out. Things have been going well. We do have a couple more weeks left, and then the week of Halloween. We're looking at a couple other things, but we did have to move to Merriman and Maplewood, First Methodist Church. We just kind of thought there would be more traffic there. So if you're looking for us, that's where we'll be. Saturdays and Sundays, the rest of the month, and then the week of Halloween. Also, the other thing is with the millage coming up, we do have our signs. So if anybody needs a sign, they can reach out to us on Facebook, and we'll get one placed.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
Mayor, can I say something to Corey?
Sure.
I know the spot that you guys were at wasn't that busy because Merriman is still closed, and I did offer that you guys could go to the Lucky Dog parking lot on either day. That's 60,000 cars a day going by right here, and you guys wouldn't have to go very far.
Our only thing, so with moving, because Derek did tell us about, and then now we're going to move again, so we're kind of like trying to figure out, I mean, we're very new to the pumpkin sales.
Well, if you need it,
figure out the best option.
if you need it, it's there.
We thank you very much.
Okay. Further public comment? Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have, so the questions answered tonight, I'm going to get back to you at the next meeting. I just want to make sure I give the proper time on the CFO question for the sidewalks and the lawsuit And let's see, just to cover some questions from last week, or last meeting, which was 3 weeks ago, actually. There was a question about some road work on Moeller from Warren. They were concerned because a part of Moeller had already been done, and then some more road work was going to start. They picked up where they left off. There was no redoing of the same spots. What they had done with a lot of entrances off major roads with the first part of the road bond is to cover that first few feet of the road, so when you're coming off a faster road onto a city street, it was a little smoother. So on Moeller, where she was concerned that we would redo it, we just started right where we left off, and as the mayor stated earlier, they're just working on that right now. Also, there were a couple requested neighborhood watch signs in the area of Bridge and Merriman. Those are both put up by DPS. A woman commented about her concerns about rodents in the area of Vinoy and Warren, the apartments there. We've been in contact with both the homeowner there and the apartment. Everybody's trying to work together to resolve the problem. Working with ordinance officers, zoning issues. When we place a dumpster, one of our concerns, well, it's part of a plan, and we have to see what we need to do to accommodate that. So we're working on it. Certainly something we want to solve for her, but those things do take time. But I will say the apartments have been cooperative during the entire time. Lastly, there was a question about, can we get some grant money to redo the bathrooms in Garden City Park? Absolutely. If we find funding to upgrade our parks, that's a concern. Those bathrooms, just looking at it from the outside, we could definitely put some work, even if you just look at it from the outside. But I went and had lunch in the park and stared at the bathroom and said, there's some things we can do low cost right now to at least pretty it up on the exterior. It'll be closed most of the winter anyways, but we can make the building look a little nicer. So I appreciate the question and pointing that out. So give us an opportunity to really examine it and put some work into it. In the short term, to fix up the outside, and then a long term, try and find a solution to make those bathrooms more appealing and usable, and prevent some of the vandalism that seems to happen there. But at the very least, I got with the Parks and Rec director and DPS, and they're going to work on upgrading the exterior for some low-cost ways, simple stuff. Also, there was a gentleman who made a complaint about a business in town. He was definitely concerned about the city's response to it and wanted us to do more. I examined the issue. We've put some effort into helping resolve that. Sometimes citizens aren't happy with the time at which things take place, but there's procedures we follow, and we're doing that. And, short of that, I think that covers all the issues I had. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I want to talk a little bit about the election, because it's hard to believe, but by the time we meet again, we will be 3 days into early voting already. So it is fast approaching. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit, because I kind of dislike how when news articles get written, they interchange the terms early voting, absentee voting. People don't necessarily know exactly what their options are when they come into City Hall and say, oh, I'd like to do early voting today. So if you just give me a couple moments. So right now, we have, if you come to City Hall, come to the clerk's office or by mail, you can apply for an absentee ballot. So your absentee ballot, once you get it, you'll get it in a blue envelope. And then inside that blue envelope, your ballot will be in the purple envelope. You vote it, put it back in the purple envelope, make sure you sign and date the outside. Can't stress that enough, most important part. Sign the envelope, and then return it to us. When we get it back, we lock it up, keep it secure until Election Day, and then our absentee voting counting board will count it on Election Day. So we've had a few people come in and say, oh, I want to early vote, and then we say, well, this is the option now. And they're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. But early voting, as defined, with the proposal 2, the 9 days prior to the election, starting Saturday, October 26th, and running through Sunday, November 3rd, we will be at the police department in the multipurpose room from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. That is the early voting that functions much like your precinct does on Election Day. You go apply for your ballot, get issued the ballot there, cast your vote, put it into a tabulator. We don't run any results until after 8 p.m. on election night, but that ballot goes in the tabulator, it tabulates, and then it's just like your precinct experience, but the 9 days early. So if you're interested in early voting, I did make up some postcards so you can remember the dates, times, and location for early voting. Like I said, Saturday, October 26th through Sunday, November 3rd. We take Monday, the 4th off because we got to get prepped for, Tuesday on Election Day. But those 9 days from 8 to 4, you can do early voting at our police department. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
I have a few things. First thing, since they're here, I want to thank the Garden City Firefighters and Local 1911 for doing your pumpkin sales. What Corey didn't say when he came up is that they're doing it to benefit the Garden City Goodfellows, to help us make sure that all the kids that need some assistance this Christmas get it. So we thank you very much for that. We took all the grandkids up there last week and let them pick out pumpkins, so that was fun. I also wanted to take a minute to thank the Pomas for their support. Thank you very much. And the Garden City Museum Straight Farmhouse this past Saturday held their first Oktoberfest. It was a pretty good success. We had a lot of good food, good music, good people, and that is the first of many that they're hoping to hold every year. The other thing, I try not to bring stuff like this up at the end of the meeting, but there's been some chatter recently, and one of the things was in regard to transparency on a trip that Councilmember Karafotis and I took up to Mackinac Island for the Michigan Municipal League Convention. And I just wanted to note that there really was nothing non-transparent about it. This is something that is offered to council, all the council members, all year long through the Michigan Municipal League. The National League of Cities is a convention that's attended, the Main Street conventions. It's all to educate us, because the more educated and knowledgeable we are, the better we're going to be able to serve all of you. So I suppose in the future, if something's coming up, we can announce it, let everybody know that, this convention or conference is coming up, because there's multiple all year long. Michigan Municipal League, they have CapCon, they have their convention, they have the Elected Officials Academy where there's different classes to take. The last one we went to was their convention, their yearly annual convention, and it was very informative. And the really good thing about it is you're not able to take every single course that they offer, of course, so whoever goes, we try to split up so that we can cover as much ground as possible. But afterwards, those presentations are made available to us of the ones we weren't able to go to. So we have all of that. And in the future, I know I've spoke with Councilmember Karafotis, and we've talked about any of them that we attend, and hopefully everybody, that we do a presentation afterwards to the public and just kind of touch base. But when we come back, we bring information back to the city manager and that sort of thing. The other thing was about our meetings at Radcliffe. We do meet with residents at Radcliffe every month on the first Thursday. And do we bring that back to the rest of council, everything that the residents say to us? No. Everybody sitting at this table has the same opportunity that we do to meet and speak with the residents, and I'm sure that they do. What we do is we bring that information back to our city manager, the one person that's sitting at this table that can actually move forward and resolve these issues that the residents bring to us. So that's why we don't come back and we don't sit up here and tell you what every resident that came to those meetings spoke to us about. So I think that's it. Oh, wait, one last thing. I want to wish my mother a happy birthday. She'll be 92 on Monday.
That it?
That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynch.
I don't have anything this evening, thank you.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Witt.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you can see, I do have this year's Santaland Parade hoodie. Sales are ongoing. If you go to santalandparade.com, there is a hyperlink that'll take you to the page to order. Orders are due by this upcoming Saturday, so if you do look to purchase a hoodie, a t-shirt, a long sleeve, please do so. The proceeds help benefit a completely volunteer-run parade and with sponsors. as well as there are signups for entries looking to be in the parade, volunteer help. Volunteers are a very, very tough topic when trying to get people to help out. The parade uses over 100 volunteers the day of the parade, including leading up to we have set up. So please, take the time if you can help us out Saturday after Thanksgiving. Show up around 8:30, but sign up. There are a bunch of positions available. We'd be more than happy to have you. We do have a free gift for anyone that does volunteer that the proceeds from the parade go to, pay for. So with that being said, Santaland Parade is upon us here shortly. Halloween themed for those that are like Halloween, but that's all that I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Karafotis.
I just wanted to say a couple things. It was nice to see everybody that came out and put mulch in at our parks this weekend. We really needed that. I know tomorrow is the Florence Park one, and I'm hoping that we reached out to the school Tipton. I know they use our park there for their recess, so I'm hoping some of those parents come out. I'm also excited to hear that our communications department is working on a community calendar. So hopefully it'll stop multiple groups from doing the same event, and then everybody can get on the same page and we can get a lot more things done in our city. So different nonprofits can get together and help each other and just make things better. So that was about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Earl.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I thought that the council voted and made you guys
We
the
did.
representatives to go
Yes,
to
we
the
did.
thing, so I don't know. There's a lot of stupidity on the internet anyway. That's why I never pay attention to it. I know that the mayor was going to touch on this. They did announce the new play at the high school is Elf the Musical. He's got the dates and everything. But the one thing I did want to highlight is Saturday, so it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday in the morning at 10 o'clock is Breakfast with Buddy, for the kids to come out, have a pancake breakfast with Buddy the Elf. And when they purchase tickets like that, I believe it's going to include the 12 o'clock showing of the musical. So it should be a good one. These ones are going to sell out super fast. Tickets aren't available yet. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a few things. One, condolences to the family of Bruce Anderson and to Jamie Matthews, their family. They both passed away, unfortunately. I would like to thank Garden City Cafe, Garden City Legion for their donations for the hurricane victims down, or the flooding victims down in North Carolina. They're still doing donations down there. I think they're working on their third trailer from the cafe. American Legion is donating backpacks filled with necessary items that they'll need down there. So thank you, Tony, and your staff, and to American Legion. Okay, I was just handed. There is an egg hunt this Saturday at 7 p.m. It is free for 0 to 10-year-olds. Is that at? It's at City Park, at 7 p.m. I believe we've done that for years with the, I think the dance group comes out and does Thriller, so that should be a good event also. That's this Saturday. In regards to Elf the Musical, Garden City High School that Councilmember Earl mentioned, that is Friday, November 22nd at 7 p.m., Saturday at noon with the Buddy with breakfast at, I believe, 10 a.m., and Sunday is a 2 o'clock showing. So looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. As he said, get your tickets early. As to Mayor Pro Tem versus council member, I didn't mean it in any disrespect. When I was pro tem, I got called council member every once in a while. I didn't take it as dividing the council or take it as a personal affront. If you took it that way, I apologize. It was not meant to be that way. And finally, Friday, I had the pleasure of going to Douglas Elementary School and doing a podcast. Turk Talk is what they called it. It's with the fourth graders, 10 years old. They're learning how to put together a podcast. I talked with Ms. Turk. The students, as you can see from the monitors, there are 5, I call them moderators, that asked me questions, and it kind of ran the gamut of everything from would I prefer stinky feet to stinky breath, all the way up to what does a mayor do? And they had some really, really good questions. I think they're trying to make me feel at ease with the questions and not be nervous, so that's what they started me with. But these kids worked really hard. All those kids there they're broken down into different groups that do different things to put this together. It's a podcast that goes within the school, and they ask other students in the school for some of the questions, so they get a lot of input, and I thought it was an awesome group. They did have some really good questions, and they worked really hard on it, and I was so thrilled that they asked me, and I was their first guest, episode 2, but it's done within the school, so we won't see it on YouTube, but again, congratulations to all those students and to Ms. Turk and her staff for putting that together. It was awesome. And with that,
Mayor.
I have no... Councilmember Earl.
Sorry, I was thinking you had mentioned it. October 24th is Trunk or Treat, put on by the Garden City Community Coalition. From 5:30 to 7. Tickets are capped at 1,000 tickets. So if you're getting interested, tickets are $2. And we'll upset stomachs.
Mike, you might want to turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry. So Trunk or Treat, October 24th, from 5:30 to 7 at the Radcliffe Center, $2. You have to go online to get the tickets. That's it.
Okay.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
You're on.
After saying I would let everybody know, I forgot to tell you, on October 24th, I will be attending the SEMCOG meeting. So anybody who doesn't know, I am the liaison for SEMCOG. SEMCOG is the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. They'll also hold some courses and stuff while we're there, so just total transparency here. Want to let you know that I'm going.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay. No further business?
One more. It was sent to me late. I would have written it on the paper. The GCUIA is playing at U of M this Saturday. So if you have the time and want to go watch some Little League football, I'm not sure. I believe the first game's probably around 10 a.m., but they'll be at U of M on Saturday, and all of the teams that they have will play on the field.
And tickets are only $10.
Okay, I think that's it. No further business. This meeting is adjourned.